0 viewers. One viewer. It's a good start. So I know I said I would be doing live streams at the 4th or the 5th of every month. Well, not every month, I'm not sure. But I was planning to do live streams on those days. But I had so much data left that I decided why not do a live stream now. So that's what I'm currently doing. We have 2 viewers. I have 0 viewers. Okay. I guess this is better if I have something to say. It's nice weather. Early spring. Enjoying the season. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty okay. Thanks for asking. Day for a walk, and it's a Sunday. That's also a big reason why I wanted to do a live stream today. So most people, they don't really have all that much to do on Sunday, I guess. I was briefly thinking, I'm your oldest viewer. I think that's correct. How old were you? 74, if I recall. I think that's... I do have a few older viewers though. Maybe not as old as you, but I do know that especially people who are into the bullworker scene, a lot of them... 73, I almost had it. How is your health? My health is pretty okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I personally do not know anyone who has perfect health. But if I am going to compare myself to my peers, then I would almost say exceptionally healthy. 73, I almost had it. I am still vegan. I get this question every single time. every video I make, every live stream I do, someone wants to know if I'm still vegan. I probably will get this question at least a few times in this live stream as well. Yeah, as I was saying, a lot of people were into bullworker workouts. The main demographic seems to be guys who are aged, I'd say at least 40 to 70. That seems to be a pretty common demographic for people who use the bullworker. So therefore a lot of my viewers are probably not a majority from the statistics that I've seen on my channel, but it's a sizable amount. I can be a vegan, too complicated. I have to say it is pretty complicated if you want to thrive. A lot of people, they will tell you that it's very easy, it's very simple. And in the short run, in order to feel good on a vegan diet, it can be quite simple. But if you want to be successful on the diet in the long run, then I do think you will have to know a lot about nutrition, and you will have to know a lot about not just what you're going to eat, but also if you have to supplement certain things, which is pretty individual dependent, and yeah. And arguably there are probably people who cannot be vegan at all. Well, without it having consequences, I think. Hi, hello. My cats can't be vegan. My cats are not vegan either. They, in fact, I feed them raw meat. I feed my cats raw meat. I just give them, yeah, just from the store, ground meat. That's what I give them. I think it would be, I would think it's very unethical to feed your cats a vegan diet. That's my opinion on that. I shouldn't have said that because that can turn into a whole political discussion about. Well, never mind. I'm just going to be truthful about it. So, you know, my cats they eat a raw meat diet. They eat a primal diet. No, they not the primal diet, but they eat a raw meat diet. And yeah, that's what I do for my cats. And I have to say that that certainly has impacted their health for the better. They have been doing that for a while. I have also given them liver and, let me think, fat. And am I missing something? That's about it. Yeah. And I have to say, despite that their health has improved, my cats definitely do not have perfect health. So that's strange, isn't it? Maybe raw meat is not the answer to everything. Curious, when you were eating cheese, did it have any negative effects on your health? Let me think. I've actually written all of this down before I went vegan. I kept notes on everything that happened when I ate certain foods. And what did I notice from cheese? Let me think. It's a good question. What did I even experience from milk in general? I do know that I did not do well with milk in general. And I do know that I had less problems with goat milk. And I even had tried buffalo milk, and that's I don't recall that I got problems from buffalo milk. I think, what did I get from milk? Yeah, this has been like 7 years ago, so it's really hard to recall. I think I got joint issues for one. Joint issues was a pretty common problem for me. What else? What else? Probably some digestive trouble as well. Well, for me, most digestive trouble came from gluten back then. Nowadays, for whatever reason, I can eat bread again. But back then, yeah, gluten was a very big problem. Just store-bought bread. I was very, very sensitive to that. Man, I really should look up those notes, because that tells into detail what happened when I ate a certain food. As far as animal products goes, the only foods that I could handle, from what I recall, was cooked egg. I had also tried raw egg back then, and that didn't sit well with me. What did I get from that? I think I just got nauseous. And the other thing that I could handle was fish. And everything else I couldn't handle it. So that was my experience with animal foods. And from there on out I decided, yeah, you know, these things so obviously give me trouble that I might as well just go vegan. So, let's see. No further questions. One very particular thing that I remember, that is, I used to always get headaches, and I am pretty sure that that was from red meat. I'm not sure what the reason was, but red meat in particular always gave me headaches. I recall you were working on publishing a book. That is correct. I have been working on that, and it probably would have been done by now, but some personal life stuff happened which pretty much put that on hold for like, well, I've not been working on it since March because, as I said, some personal stuff happened, and it's a very time-consuming problem. So the book itself, it's pretty close to being done. I think maybe if I work on it for a few more weeks, then it would be complete. But as of now, it's it's being put on hold. Just my mind isn't into it. Had to switch to my laptop phone. Okay. Your thoughts on protein powders. So my experience with, and I've tested this, when I was eating protein powders, I got up to a total amount of about 110 grams of protein a day. And if I didn't use them, it was closer to 90, I think. And I wasn't using them every day, but I was using them on some days. And eventually my protein powder, during the time that I was using protein powder, I gained muscle and all was well. And eventually my protein powder ran dry. It was, my protein powder had no more, used all of it. And I didn't get to buying anything. And at that point I had to work out on a vegan diet without protein powder. And my experience was that it made no difference. It just made no difference. So the typical idea is that you need about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass if you're trying to gain as much free mass as you possibly can. And the amount is more like between 0.6 and 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass. And for me, apparently, even if I'm closer to that 0.6 grams per pound, I'm still building as much muscle as I possibly can. So it might be different for some other people, but for me, using protein powders didn't make any difference, and I haven't been using them since. So that's my opinion on protein powder. I'll go make some tea and get a smoke. I almost wanted to make this a 420 live stream for the people that get that reference, but I ended up not doing that because I don't know, as I already sometimes feel that I'm not the best presenter when I am sober, let alone when I'm high. So I quickly came to the conclusion that that was probably not the best idea. Let me see. Might be worth to sit somewhere. Hey, from San Francisco. Hello. I've smoked cigarettes as well. And yeah, well, not much that I can say about that. I no longer do that. But I think that on New Year's I had smoked a joint with some tobacco in it. Let me see. Sitting here on this nicely shed on bench. Is this stable? No, not at all. Probably I will move somewhere else. because I want to avoid the Gangstalkers. I don't want to be gangstalked, so I'm going to move somewhere where no one can find me. I knew a lot of weightlifters that did back in the 70s. It was quite common, right? Also had much more of a stigma that if you were smoking, you were a cool guy. So that makes sense back in the day. And it's a little bit, yeah, it's weird. You have people who smoke and they still end up being on top of their sport. So to what extent smoking affects your ability to be a top athlete, it's questionable. But of course it does raise your risk of certain complications. I certainly noticed that when I was smoking that it wasn't the best thing for my health. There's a sort of large animal there, I'm not sure what it is. Could be a wild boar, could be a fox or something. Certainly bigger than a mouse. My mom smoked all of her life and lived to 95 years old. She passed 2 years ago. Sorry to hear that, but that's a very old age. But you hear that often. I think the oldest woman that has ever lived was a chain smoker. And there's even something about a relation between smoking and the development of Parkinson and Alzheimer. And smokers, they actually are less likely to get those diseases. So people who are, it kind of depends on the age, I guess. But at a certain point, when you have a higher likelihood to develop Alzheimer's or Parkinson, then at that point maybe there's some benefits, relative benefits to smoking, who knows. But she did get Alzheimer's, so yeah. I think it's especially protective against Parkinson's. I'm not sure if it is also very protective against Alzheimer's. I think both, but particularly Parkinson's. Don't turn your back on a wild animal. Yeah, that is it's good advice. I don't think that it was a boar. If it was something really large, then I would have been a bit more careful. I probably would also be a bit more silent. But yeah, I don't know. Could also be an animal with rabies, you never know. Could you take Bigfoot? No respiratory diseases. Yeah, see, that's interesting. Despite the smoking. It's interesting that lung cancer used to be a pretty somewhat rare disease. And eventually, and this had nothing to do with smoking. So like back in the 40s, the beginning of the 20th century, lung cancer wasn't really a big deal back then. And now suddenly it is, which is a little bit strange because smoking habits certainly haven't changed that much. If anything, we are smoking less, probably. So my guess is that that might have something to do with the tobacco industry putting more chemicals, that's a stupid word for it, but more a lot more questionable things into their tobacco. And could I take Bigfoot? I don't know. Assuming that Bigfoot is I probably can, because Bigfoot is most likely not real. But if he was real, or if she was real, I don't know. I do not know which gender pronouns Bigfoot prefers. But whatever might be the case, I probably couldn't. I don't know. I'm a 150-pound guy who is, I'm only human, you know? One of my close friends is Parkinson's, big guy. I used to work out with. He's 66 years old and he smoked his butt off and lifted real heavy weights. It's not to say that you're like, when you smoke, that you're going to be completely immune for those diseases. It's just that there has been a correlation, apparently, between smokers and a lower likelihood of Parkinson's. Let me see. Ah, that works. Good. I'm not into drugs at all, never. I don't use them all that much, but very rarely. Very rarely. Yeah, I think I said this in the last live stream. The last time I have smoked weed was on New Year's, and I think that's the last time I touched anything. I think I'm safe here from the Gangstalkers. I don't think they will find me here. Pretty nice weather. I've done weed back in the day, but gave it up. Gave it up? You don't just give up on weed. Who gives up on weed? Maybe weed gave up on you, you never know. I myself have pretty much given up on weed. As I just said, I rarely touch the stuff, if ever. Thanks. I also brought my my ISO with me, so that I would have something to do in the under the rare circumstance that not a lot of people would join this live stream, that I at least would have something to do. I mean, I can also sit here and just enjoy the weather and do nothing, but that would kind of make a weird live stream, I think. I don't think that would look very interesting on my channel. So that's why I brought this with me. I just pick up my ISO and immediately I'm getting more viewers. Coincidence? I think not. The Gangstalkers know what's up. Are you guys familiar with the Gangstalker phenomenon? What is the temperature there? I think it's about 18 degrees Celsius. My guess is between 15 and 80. No, between 14 and 17 degrees Celsius. That's my guess. Well, there's this phenomenon. So David asked me what a Gangstalker is. So there is this phenomenon where you have YouTubers, especially the kind who are interested in conspiracy theories, and not like the conspiracy theories where you can say, oh, there's some gray area there and maybe there's something to be said for that. I'm talking about the Gangstalkers who typically believe that the government is run by aliens or lizard people, and you know, people who have those types of conspiracy theories. A lot of those, they make videos about how they believe that the whole world knows that they are spreading the truth, and it's very interesting. You just see them make videos where they go, where they take a walk or something. They go over the street and they see an ambulance, and they're like, "That ambulance is there to keep me in check, to keep tabs on me." Or they just walk along the road and they see like, uh, I don't know, two cars pass him or her. Well, it's usually him, and then two cars in a row pass him that are black, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, right. Two black cars are passing me. Yeah, right." Such a weird coincidence. That means that, and they take that as a sign that the whole world is keeping tabs on them. So that's the Gangstalker phenomenon. It's essentially psychosis. But I guess yeah, if you haven't seen it, then yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's really totally wacko. But yeah, you have to really see it to know what I'm talking about. It's people will go to a store and they'll talk about I don't know. Um, they'll start filming, right? They always film these events happening, and it's like, "Oh, I'm currently filming, and I'm going to the store to pick up some celery," and then they go with the idea of that they are going to be gang stalked, that some people are going to follow them. And then they go to the store, they go into the store, and at the vegetable aisle in the store, someone is standing there. And they take that as evidence that the whole world is trying to keep tabs on them. It's very weird. And yeah, this is usually something that comes from people that make videos about exposing the evil elites. Never saw a UFO in my life. My half brother and my daughter in Phoenix, Arizona, never seen a UFO. Oh, and they do say that, especially in Phoenix, Arizona, there is a lot of UFOs, right? UFOs. Weird coincidence that you're keeping from doing anything else. Well, actually, I'm eating. Just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean people aren't talking about you. You know, for sure. I wouldn't say that. How should I put it? It's specifically the idea that the whole world is keeping tabs on you, the whole world is just following you, and it's not just that. It's that the idea that the government is going to put in so much effort to keep, you know, and this is often about small channels, right? This is like for people who have a few hundred subscribers on YouTube. They think that the whole world is trying to fuck with them. It's very interesting, and in a sense, I would perceive it as a narcissistic trait to think that your opinion is that important, that that if you see an ambulance somewhere, that ambulance is there just to mess with you. It's very interesting. But yeah, it's a form of psychosis, and to another extent, maybe a form of narcissism, something along those lines. I'm not sure. My half brother is a doctor, internist, medicine. You know, as far as people talking about other people, that happens to everyone, doesn't it? Everyone has something to say about, well, yeah, pretty much every person is being talked about. That already just happens from the point that not everyone will like you. So there will always be people that will talk shit about you. There's nothing you can do about that. Nor is that something you should, you know, have a problem with, really. Maybe really shitty people are talking shit about you, so when that's the case, is it really something you should worry about? I'd say no. In Yuna AZ, he says it's bullshit. The whole UFO thing, I'm not sure. Yeah. You know, as far as extraterrestrial life goes, I do know that oftentimes what is perceived as a UFO, well, it's just an unknown flying object, right? It doesn't have to be from, it doesn't necessarily have to be from extraterrestrial beings. What I understand is that oftentimes what was perceived as a UFO was, for example, a spacecraft from a military base that hadn't been seen before. And at that time, you could say, yeah, that was actually a UFO. But to talk about, yeah, aliens and all of that stuff, I think if there is life on other planets, then it is unlikely that, how should I put it? I don't know. I find it somewhat unlikely that they would not at all interact with us, but they would, you know, observe what we are doing. Just seems a little bit weird to me. Yeah, I'd stay in any haunted house if I'm paid. I would too. I would have no problem with that. If, yeah. Yeah, no problem. Haunted house. Getting paid for it. Seems like a sweet deal. I'm not worried about that stuff. Are you saying your YouTubing isn't here to mess with us specifically? I am an agent of the elite. Well, I'm not an agent. I'm a very high-ranking member of the Illuminati Society. And I am here to, yeah, do my thing. I'm not here to mess with people. I'm, yeah, just doing my job for the Illuminati. I'm born a Roman Catholic, but I never practice much on religion. To me, when you're dead, you're dead. That's it. Yeah, I don't know. Certainly don't think that there's a whole lot of convincing evidence. It's, as far as religion goes, it's a deep subject. I think that I really want to do a video about that in particular sometime. I will say this, as far as reality goes, when you look at how reality is built up from a quantum level, that means, you know, an atomic level, when you see how it's all built up, it's very strange. You could really talk about creation in a sense. To say that it is creation done with intent, with conscious intent, that's a whole other topic. Any update on the new Bullworker review? I have formed an opinion on it, and I am working on a review, and I think I will probably bring it out next week. Overall, my opinion is very positive. My dad was born in 1901. Wow. That is quite a long time ago. My dad was born in Malta, he fought for the UK. Famous last words. I'm not afraid of that kind of stuff. Yeah, nor should you be, I guess. Well, I mean, most people are. I probably am. I certainly wouldn't want to die. Especially not at this age. think that if you become older, then your perception on those things starts to change. But at my age, I think it's only very natural to be afraid of, you know, at least, well, maybe not afraid, but you would not want to die. He was 25 years my mother's senior. That's old. It's yeah. That's a big difference in age. But whatever works, right? Hey, miss you, dude. How have you been? I'm doing fine. I've been better, but I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. I've named this video, let me think. My friend Steve Kaufman turned 83 years old today, and he looks great. He went last fall with his daughter to see the Rolling Stones in Vegas. Yeah, man, awesome if you have a lot of vitality at that age. I think it is, yeah, you know, I think we really should be vital creatures up until a very old age. I think that should be that should be a normal thing. You see it with animals as well. I mean, usually, as long as they're living healthy outside, they stay pretty vibrant up until, yeah, until they're very close to that. He's my former karate instructor. With inflation happening, is it affecting your pet rock business? It has been pretty stable actually. Not a whole lot of stuff has been happening to my pet rock business. It's been pretty okay. Hey, what's going on? How are you? I am good. Just sitting here in the middle of nowhere, making sure that I'm not being gangstalked. Hey, that's great, man. Start doing push-ups again. Yeah, you said you were kind of out of being physically active, right? Good that you're starting again. It really makes a big difference for me in how well I feel mentally, whether or not I am. You know, if I don't do any physical activity, then when I do that for a few weeks, when I'm just very lax for a few weeks, I really notice that it is negatively affecting my mental well-being. You have a pet rock business? Yes, I do. How about showing us some of your pets? Oh, it's falling apart. This is a pretty good pet. You never have to feed it, and yeah, this particular one is quite sensitive to water, but yeah, you never have to walk them, and it's the ideal pet, really. Got my power twister and my bullworker are here with me. Trustworthy companions. Those are great pets as well. Can always rely on those two. Well, you gotta be a little bit careful with the power twister. You don't want to injure yourself. Always be careful with the power twister. Did you ever have any COVID symptoms? I have, at one point, did I have mild flu symptoms, and I did a test and it came out negative. Apparently I just had a normal flu, and this was during the height of the pandemic, when it was pretty much believed that the flu didn't exist anymore. So yeah, it was just a very, very weird coincidence. But I've never, no, I've not had COVID. All the people that I know that did have COVID, they, let me think. I think only one really still has some trouble, in the sense that they have lost some taste, lost some smell, and most of the people that I know, they had it pretty mild. I do know though that, from direct family of some of the people that I know, they yeah, some have lost family members to, supposedly the COVID. But I don't know the details. I don't know what, how exactly the treatment of those patients went, because eventually they had to be put in the hospital and they were put in a coma. And these are all older people, by the way. These are not like my peers. These are not people of my own age. These are like family members from my peers. And yeah, usually what happens is they're being brought into the hospital and they're eventually being put into a coma, um, an artificial coma, if you will. And I have no idea what else happened with the treatment. So that is questionable. Maybe something in the treatment happened which uh, increased the likelihood of the likelihood of dying from from COVID. And at that point, you could wonder to what extent can you contribute the death to COVID itself. Didn't know you were into rocks. Why is it in quotation marks? Am I missing an inside joke here? I know. I don't wear glasses with the power twister and move it a distance from my face. Yeah, that's the best thing. Do you have faith in NFTs? Um, when you really think about it, is it a necessary technology? I don't know. Is it something that we really need, or is it something that we have created in order to create an economic market for these type of things? So to that extent, I think, it can be used for some interesting things. You can bind it to a contract, for example. You can give royalties to people, and can be used to. I saw that, someone made an NFT, and the NFT is just a thing that they use to open the car. Pretty funny stuff. But a lot of things that look stupid in on the first hand. For example, the same thing happened with crypto. No one believed in crypto, and now look at it. As far as it goes with NFTs, I'll really will have to see what they're going to come up with, what they are eventually going to do with it. It certainly is a field that is very sensitive to scams. And even, what's her name? Some famous actress, she made an NFT collection. And because some people were insulting her, apparently, just based on that, she pretty much. You have to understand that this famous actress, who is very well off, was making all of these promises. I think it's like Paris Hilton or something like that. Who was it? I don't know. Um, a somewhat infamous actress, and she made that collection, and some people were bad-mouthing her, and just because she was bad-mouthed by a few people, she said, all the things that I promised to people, I'm going to not do that because people were bad-mouthing me, which in my opinion, people have already paid thousands of dollars for the NFT. At that point, you are scamming people. You have stolen from people. But no one cares because, yeah, I don't know. Just no one seems to care about it. People don't. People are so used to getting scammed in crypto, I guess, that people aren't bothered when some famous actress does it. So it's a very immature field as of now. I think that's probably the best way to summarize what I think about it. Didn't know you had a rock business. Elon Musk possibly buying Twitter. I think that's a good thing. I hope that he does it. Yeah, I'm all for that. I've never had the idea that Musk has very strong political biases, and especially a platform, social media that is a social media platform that's used by so many people. I think that it would be a great thing if that platform would have actual real free speech, not with a political bias. I've been a guitar instructor and player back in the 70s. I went through an extended period experiencing some strange phenomena of the mind: inability to focus, anxiety, paranoia, agitation, sudden sleeplessness, foreboding, and fogginess, beyond anything I've experienced before. Perhaps COVID related. Oh, this is something that happened to you recently. You tested strong on antibodies when you went to the doctor. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, you know, COVID is a real disease. That's one thing that's for sure. And people are really getting COVID. No doubt about that. At any rate, I'm finally back to normal for several weeks now. And how long did you have? Yeah. How long was your health affected? Was it for a few weeks, few months? Because as I said, at least people from my age, as far as I know, they get it for 10 days, maybe. Sometimes not even that long. And only one person I know had their taste and smell affected in the long run. As far as Elon Musk buying Twitter goes, I do kind of think that it's probably going to happen, because it's usually when that guy has his mind on something, on doing something, then he will find a way to make it happen. So I think it is most likely going to happen one way or the other. They can put in any sanctions they want for people that own more than 15% of the stock. Elon will probably find a way. I've lasted off and on for several weeks. Okay. That's usually how it goes. with disease. If you overcome it, you're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have good days, or bad weeks, good weeks. That's usually how it goes. Musk has a number of financial backers to make it happen. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought as well. You know, if he owns, if they say like no one can own more than 15% of the stock, no problem. Elon probably knows some other people who are willing to buy part of the stock, and then he doesn't have to own 15%, but he will still have he will have more than enough influence on the platform. But his idea was to buy the entire stock and the take it off the stock market altogether. With the trans movement picking up steam in everything of life, is it just a fad or is it a new way? I think with any political change that happens or any new political idea that happens, usually what you will initially see is that a new idea completely goes overboard, and eventually it will reach a point where it will receive resistance, and at that point the new idea, at this point it has been an idea that has been out for, well, a few decades now, but eventually it will normalize and it will be accepted into society, but it will not anymore be as much of a, how should I put it? It will not be as radical as it currently is, basically. Have to go. Good seeing you and looking forward to your book. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. Was good having you here. I'm probably the only of few conservatives in my neighborhood in New York City, Lower Manhattan. I think there's probably, yeah, New York City is very progressive, isn't it? But do I think that the trans movement is a necessary thing at this point? You know, it's hard for me to say as someone who lives in the Netherlands, because I have never at any point seen that homosexuals, transgenders, any of those people have been a suppressed group. I have never experienced that they are suppressed by our society, but that is in the Netherlands. What happens in America, what happens in certain states, I mean, it's true that a few years ago, in many states, you were not allowed to marry if you were, you were not allowed to marry anyone of the same gender. So, that I would say, especially considering that this is in states where being married has certain benefits, financial benefits. At that point, I would say you need a movement to, yeah. To that extent, I am pro for change, but that change has now happened. So do I think that we have to go further than that? I mean, here in the Netherlands, again, as I said, homosexuals have been allowed to marry as long as I have been born in this country. It has always been the case. So I have never personally experienced that other side of the coin. But that other side of the coin, yeah, do I agree with it? No, I don't. But do I agree with a radical progressive movement? No, absolutely not. Rouge, be good, same here in San Francisco. My opinions on these matters, they've always been pretty, yeah, not extremely one way or the other. I think if it actually comes to a point that let me think about how I phrase this. It seems no one can define what a woman is. Yeah, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, that is, in my opinion, that is definitely a sign of the left going way too far. It's pretty insane. If there is a certain system in place that really negatively affects certain type of person who has a trait that is not directly affecting, which is not directly harmful to society or people surrounding them, then I would say that system needs to be looked at. Again, for the example of gay marriage in America, if you cannot marry in certain states, which nowadays you can, but it used to be that you could not marry in those states if you wanted to marry someone of the same gender. If that means that you're losing financial benefits, that is a real problem. Not for me. San Francisco and New York City is bad enough. Live and let live. Just don't try to remake society in your own image. Society is always changing. It's something you cannot prevent, and people are always going to voice their opinions, and there are always going to be people who are very passionate about their ideas. And really, society is something that needs to be an ever-changing thing, because as our technology develops, um, as our knowledge evolves, we yeah, we will have to also um, yeah, change certain ideas. That's just what it is. However, there we will probably look back on this time in 100 years, and we will look at it and think like, wow, this was a very barbaric time, relatively speaking. At some point, that's just going to happen. If we now look at what happened 100 years ago, we would look at that and we would say, yeah, we were, all in all, it was a pretty underdeveloped time. Relatively speaking, of course. Well, they're missing a lot with women. How about Yubi? Could it work? I do not know what Yubi is. What is that? Explain. There are certainly systems in place which are unfair to. It's interesting. I think that if you really are going to break it all down, you will find that there are systems in place that will always negatively affect one or the other type of group. And that comes from society, that comes from human nature, that, uh, yeah, it's a complex thing. And as I said, it's something that is going to change with time. And we will have to pass some hurdles, but in the long run, we will change for the better. That is my belief. Universal basic income. But let me say this. We certainly should ensure that people are not living on the street. We certainly should ensure that people have, um, you know, access to clean drinking water, um, you know, warm water, um, yeah, good food. There's definitely something that falls under basic needs. And I think everyone, despite what they're doing with their lives, everyone should have access to that. But how we are going to set that up, that is a very tough thing to navigate. Because, yeah, in one way or the other, if we are going to give everyone a basic income, or if we are going to give everyone a house, some people are going to get affected by that, you know? Also people who don't deserve to be affected by it, to an extent. So it's a hard thing to navigate, but it is always going to be a better thing than having people live on the street. Say 50,000 a year, for example. Well, if you're gonna count inflation and all of that stuff, depending what they're gonna do with it. Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's a lot of money, and where does that money come from? I think that's usually the point that conservatives make. You know, if you're going to give everyone an income, where does that income come from? How is that going to affect the economy by itself? So it's a hard thing to navigate, but to a point you can say, you know, it has to be done. Because again, you cannot be having people that are living on the street. You cannot be having people who cannot eat normal foods. You cannot be having people who and what you see in the Netherlands, for example, nowadays. You have people who say they can only. This is the Netherlands, mind you. They're talking about how they can only take a shower once a week now because otherwise their electric bill is going to be too high. Imagine that. Um, yeah, that is certainly something that we can be having that. Or people they're now eating stale bread in the Netherlands. Can you imagine that? People like these are actually like news articles that are being brought forward. People talking about their experience, how inflation has affected their life. They cannot put anything on their bread anymore. They're now eating stale bread, stale bread. They can barely shower. They have to turn down the heater to a point that they're constantly cold. You know, guess you can put on another layer of clothing, but yeah, it's a yeah, that is a big problem. Hello, Machismo from Ontario. Hello, John Cunningham. Would it work for all to be under one monetary currency? Hmm. It might have benefits, it might have some negatives. That's a field that I haven't really looked into. I'm not sure. Because it could mean that you are essentially putting a monopoly uh, on a certain system. That would most likely happen if you have a currency, a worldwide currency, then and it would not be decentralized, then it would be monopolized. And if it would be monopolized, then it really depends where the interests lie of that monopoly. Monopoly. I monopoly? Monopoly. Monopoly. Damn it. It's monopoly. Let me see how much data have I used. 6 megabytes. That's impossible. That is absolutely impossible. We'll check how much data I had been using. Ah, damn it. Oh well. You know what? I'm going to walk for a bit. At least I'm back. Not that many viewers today. Yeah. Last live stream I had a lot more viewers. Well, not that much more. I think maybe like 10 or something. It was at least it was a little bit more lively. It's lively enough as it is. Yeah. Well, it didn't froze. I did an oopsie. But it's fixed now. Let me see, do I have everything on me? Yeah. Okay, good. Ah, alright. People are getting back. Yeah, I made a mistake. I almost thought that I messed the live stream. But luckily you can just reconnect. That probably would not have been an option a few years back on YouTube. Probability, the time zones. No, I did. I made a mistake of clicking on something, and that just stopped the live stream altogether. So, yeah, my mistake. But it's fixed now. So. What were we talking about? Currency, right? A monopoly on currency, essentially. Yeah, with Bitcoin you have the whole thing of they want to decentralize that. And the question is then, can some organ, a can some political or governmental organ, can they then centralize cryptocurrency? They most likely can. I think that they've already done that with Ripple, haven't they? So when you consider that, yeah. And a one world currency would most likely never be decentralized. No, I think that's impossible, isn't it? You can maybe have a mass adoption that a lot of people will use it, but can you get the whole world as far as to use a decentralized currency? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the whole economics would work with that. Yeah, that's hard to say. It's really hard to say. It's been a long time since I've been in this part of the forest. There's this thing that's growing there now. I've not seen that last time I was here. What's this, a broken off tree? Looks like it. Will the war end or is it meant to drag on? Which war? The war in the Ukraine? My guess is that it is a political conflict that will live on for a very long time. Since the beginning of recorded history centuries ago, there has always been the wealthy and the poor. If low-income people stopped having children, they cannot afford the situation would improve. Stopped having children, they cannot afford their situation would improve. Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. And it's an interesting thing that especially people who are not that well off financially, or they just live in a poor country, those people always tend to have more children. And I think that there are some reasons for that. Well, there are definitely reasons for that, but at least, yeah, there are some reasons that explain why, especially the the ones that are not well off want to have more children. In countries where even the drink water isn't clean, a lot of... Wait, let me collect my thoughts for a second. What's up, bro? So... you have... You have a lot of families that want to have a lot of children because the likelihood of the children dying is very high. That is why in certain areas you see families wanting to have a bunch of children. That is usually in poor countries, and again, where child deaths are very high. And even in countries where people are well off, usually the lower income families have more children. The reason for that, I'm not sure. I think it might also be a... yeah. Might be something that comes from tradition. Maybe those people have always been poor. Those people always came from, you know, a poor family tree, and yeah, you know, a few hundred years back, most likely we had the same problem. Where, man, it's so hard to really put this into words. Oh. Essentially, usually when people are certain of their wealth, and more so certain about their situation, they are less likely to have a lot of children. And if they are not as well off, and even if they cannot afford children, they are more likely to have more children. In really poor countries, that is very easy to explain, because the child deaths are very high, and it's yeah, it's done out of necessity to survive. Whoa, a pheasant! Awesome. Okay, and it's done out of necessity, and it also happens in more modern countries, or not just modern, but more wealthy countries. Likely because, yeah, why does it happen? I don't know. I really don't know. IQ. What, mine IQ? So I have done 2 official tests when I was, let me think. I was 16 or 17. That was the first time that I did an IQ test. I'm just talking about official IQ tests here, so not one of these tests that you do on Google. That you can just yeah, rabbit, pheasant, run. Yeah, pheasant with rabies. You never know, right? So the first one that I did, my IQ came out as 128. A few years later, I did another one. I think, yeah, at this point I had been vegan for a few years, and I was just, in my experience, a lot sharper at that point. And that one came out as, I believe 139, yes. Because I know that it was just on the brink of being what is believed to be genius level IQ. I knew it was. I do know that it was a lot higher than my previous IQ test. Should post-second education debt go bankrupt or paid by the taxpayers? Should post education, debt, go bankrupt. Yeah, I think that everyone should have access to proper education. The fact that they in the Netherlands they've turned it into a system where you can lend money, where those that try to get a proper education are then stuck with an enormous debt. I think that is absolutely insane. I think that I think that is definitely something that should fall under a basic right. That is not something that should be affected by the wealth of your family. Not yours. I was referring to people who have fewer children tend to be in higher IQ range. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That has been what I have observed as well. Well, that has been proven for one, and I have also seen it to be the case in real life, that generally the people that I know who came out of very large families, usually there was always something that I would consider to be a little bit off about them, intellectually speaking. Not to say that is always the case, but that has been a very consistent finding for myself. Do I understand the question correct? Should post-second education debt go bankrupt or paid by the taxpayers? Yeah, that's the thing, right? Taxpayers would then have to pay for the education of... Yeah, I think in that sense it's a matter of... Yeah, well, education, good education is such an important thing. I think it makes a lot of sense if the government is going to make it a little bit easier for everyone to have good education, basically. Let me see, this is a dead end. I will have to walk another way. I probably will have to... Yeah, I believe I will have to walk all the way back. Oh, okay. That's what it is. Would it be better for people to learn trade work or diversity degree? Learn trade work or diversity degree? Are you talking about learning out of mostly experience? Or mostly from education? Starting to get a raspy throat. How long have I been streaming? Okay. Let me see. I want to be sure that I understand the question before I answer it. Here in the Netherlands, what is interesting is that if you want to learn a certain field... Wait, what's this? Oh, okay, not important. Here in the Netherlands, if you want to learn a certain field, and you yeah, I'm a little bit slow at this point. should I put it? When you want to learn a certain field in the Netherlands, and I'm pretty sure that this is not just in the Netherlands, this is pretty much a European thing. You can learn certain fields at different levels of education, right? So for the people who know, you have high school, you have VMBO, you have HAVO, you have HBO. What is it? Not HBO. Well, it doesn't matter. Essentially, you have different levels where you can learn a certain field. And usually, the lower levels of education, they focus on practice, working with your hands. And it's the higher levels of education that tend to really focus more on the theoretical stuff and learning things in books. And it's a little bit strange to me. I would say that why necessarily do you see that lower levels of education, they focus on the actual practice of your job that you will eventually try to do? It's a weird thing to me, because yeah, like I said, that's eventually the thing that you're going to do anyway. Why do higher levels of education focus on the theoretical? To me, it seems that you would learn more from doing the actual thing that you end up doing anyway. We have a super chat. Hey Machismo, I'm getting off. Take care and be well. When you're on Facebook, I'm Roger Bonisi GR, New York City. Okay, man. Hey, you know what? Are you actually in the Bulwark Facebook Facebook group? Yeah, I think you are. Hey, thanks for the donation, Roger. Much appreciated. But yeah, I'm not sure if I exactly understand the question. But that's a little bit of my opinion on the education system here in the Netherlands. It's a bit weird. At least that's one part of it that is weird. There are other parts that are strange as well, but that is something that always in particular kind of bothered me. I'm not in the Bulwarker group anymore. Take care. Oh, really? Huh. Oh, you used to be. Huh. What happened? Seems like a pretty lax group. Not a... I do know that a few people have blocked... No. 2 people have blocked me in the Bulwarker Facebook group. That I know. There was one person who didn't like that I said that the Bulwarker can build muscle. And eventually I ended up having a discussion with this person. And I know that eventually the discussion ended with me asking him, are you saying that the Bulwarker essentially works the same as a bicycle? Because his belief was that the Bulwarker was just a device for toning the muscles, and you couldn't build any actual muscle mass with it, let alone build strength with it. So he basically said that it was a device for losing fat. And yeah, essentially a cardio system. So I told him, are you essentially saying that the Bulwarker works like a bicycle? And he ended up agreeing with me, because that was pretty much his form of logic. And I responded by saying, well, if that is true, then, you know, I dare you to go and sit on a bicycle, go cycle for 3 months, and if you still have the amount of muscle that you currently have, that you have built up at the Bullworker, then I'm going to eat my device on a live stream. Yeah, and he didn't really like that. And I think that that person still talks a lot of smack about how the Bullworker is essentially mostly a muscle toner and not a device for building muscle. Bullworker is great for joints, but tendons can take a beating. That's correct. You do have to know how you use it. You have to use proper form. It's not even, you know, when you use it correctly, then generally you're, then generally you will not get a lot of problems with your tendons. The main problem is the tendons in the forearms. And that happens from incorrect positioning of the arms when you do the chest compression. And the other person that blocked me on the Bullworker Facebook group was, what's his name? Skippy IFB something. And I don't know why. I believe that Skippy is... Am I correct to say that that is Marlon Birch? I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that he sells books about the Bullworker. And that person blocked me. I don't know why. I've never ever interacted with him. I've never said a thing. And other than that, I don't even really have an opinion on him. So, I don't know. But other than that, the Bullworker group, as far as I can tell, is a pretty relaxed group. It's really a strange thing that people still believe that the Bullworker cannot build muscle. It's not to say that it is a very popular opinion, especially among the people who have used the Bullworker. But apparently some people still assume that it's it's not fitting for building muscle. It's usually those people that believe that only free weights can build muscle. Very interesting. Don't know what the logic is based on. It is something that I probably will address in a video at some point as well. But the thing is, it is something that I have addressed. I have made probably, let me count them. Yeah, at least 3 videos. I've made at least 3 videos on how the Bullworker can build muscle. And not only that, I've also explained that I'm not making any claims as if the Bullworker is some like super machine. I've certainly never claimed that it is better at building muscle than free weights. But it certainly isn't worse either. I find strength goes up more than muscle size. Yeah, usually when you build up muscle, usually when you gain strength, it can be easier to build muscle. Doesn't always go hand in hand. You have plenty of people who are very strong and they don't have a lot of muscle. Woodworkers say they are working on some more new stuff. Have they recently said that? Do you mean new equipment? Because I haven't been told about that. I only know about the S3, but they have already released that one. As people know, I already currently own that one. Let me see. Doesn't look as if I can place it anywhere. Nah. I need a new selfie stick. Okay, that's okay. Do you know what kind of new stuff they're working on? Or have they just fakely referred that they are gonna make some new stuff? Because again, I haven't seen it. I what I do think that they will probably do is make a 28-inch model with more springs. That I'm pretty sure that they will end up doing that. Just my guess. Do you have a favorite Bullworker product of all time? Or all same? Right. Currently, I do enjoy the S3 model. And I would then also say that most likely I would prefer the classic over the steel bow, as I did with the S2 models. At least for a home gym, if I'm going to travel, I would prefer the steel bow because it's easier for traveling. But all in all, yes, I would say the S3 model. That is currently my favorite Bullworker product. The Bow Classic. Feels nice, has a lot of options. Looks very nice as well. I have very little to critique about the S3 models. And I already had very little to critique about the Bullworker Unlimited Bullworker devices. Bullworker Unlimited being the American company for Bullworker. I have no experience with the X5, but I highly doubt that I would enjoy it more than the S3 models, or just the yeah, the American models. Changing the spring is such a, yeah, the option of having multiple springs, that is such a big thing, and it's hard to overcome that with yeah, in another way. Like in my opinion, you cannot overcome that by adding more straps to or adding a different type of strap, as has been done with the X5 models. Which I've heard a lot of interesting stuff about the X5 model, but yeah, I cannot imagine that I would enjoy it more than the Bullworker Unlimited models, the American models. We have 4 viewers, and almost no one is asking questions. It's not really uh, hmm. I have also recently been able to test a bow basic from the older generation, not the not the 28-inch model. And I have to say, it's made with reed tubes. It was not bad, actually. I It was made of higher quality than I expected. Maybe someday I will review that one, but it's no longer being sold, so wouldn't really matter. I doubt it's still available, actually. Like you cannot get it on. I doubt you can get it on eBay or on Amazon anywhere. For anyone watching who has a bullworker, what is your opinion on your favorite bullworker model? And why is that your favorite bullworker model? If you have one. I am curious what other people think. Isaac-inator is another one you hear a lot about. Like some people they say that it is completely superior to the bullworker. I do not know. I assume it's, as far as what you can do with it, it's pretty similar to this. It's pretty similar to an isobow. An isobow, unlike the Isaac-inator, has actually some really nice handles. Very comfortable. The Isaac-inator just has straps. Classic best, better range of motion. Yeah, I agree. It's also a bit more fitting for some, for certain muscles. Well, yeah, definitely for some muscles. The classic is better for the legs, I found. Better for the back. And I have also found that certain exercises that are very that you can do with the bow classic, it is sometimes almost impossible to do them with the steel bow because the size of the device just doesn't allow for it. That is, for example, certain leg exercises. Let's see. You can hit the lats with both the steel bow and the bow classic. It's mostly the lower back that is a lot easier to hit with the bow classic. You can deadlift with a bow classic. You can't really do that all that well with a steel bow. It can be done, especially if you use extensions. But all in all, I would much prefer the bow classic. see, I think I will probably close down the live stream in a bit. I'm already getting a raspy voice from all the talking I've been doing. It's pretty, yeah, in a way exhausting to talk for more than an hour. Imagine if this chat was actually like very lively, man, and I would just end up having to talk non-stop. Sounds like hell. Is that a big forest you're in? It's not, I mean, that's relative. It's not a very big forest, but it's a pretty sizable forest, and this is one section of the forest. There's another section. I don't think I've even ever made any footage there, which is about the same size as this forest, as this one. Actually, you could say that this forest is you could cut it up in 4 sections, more or less. And this is one section. This is probably the largest section. I will actually figure that out. I will look up how much acres this forest is. Next time I make a stream, I will. I think that's an interesting tidbit to share, maybe. It's not a small forest, but it's certainly not a very, very big forest. Oh, huh? What did I do? Oh, all right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna close down the live stream. Everyone, thanks for joining. It was a joy to have you all here, and yeah, I will already announce I will most likely, if nothing gets in between it, I will upload a review of the S3 Bullworker model next week. Probably between Wednesday and Friday. That's my guesstimate. And I will probably also make a workout. Yeah, I will probably also do a workout. Not next week, but the week after that. And yeah, that's all I had to share for now. And again, everyone, thanks for joining. It was an interesting live stream, as always, and I will see you all next time.